Let's move on now to the next main topic today. And this is pretty interesting. The next main topic today comes to us from Omar94, who writes, "Hi, John. Huge fan since AMC." Well, thank you so much, Omar. From Tallahassee, Florida, reports are out that Marc Webb might make the Snow White live-action remake. What are your thoughts on this? Personally, Snow White is the live-action remake that interests me the most because I feel that will be the most stressful to make since it's the first animated film and arguably Disney's crown jewel. Without it, Disney would not be where it is now. Well, I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, Disney has done a lot of stuff. I don't know if you can say, certainly Snow White is one of the pillars of the success of Disney, no doubt. So for those of you who don't know what's being talked about right now, there are legit reports out there right now that Marc Webb might be in final negotiations to direct a live-action Snow White. Now, you guys know there have been several live-action iterations of Snow White recently, not the least of which was, what was it? Snow White and the Huntsman or Winter's War and bleh. Anyway, those weren't so good. Okay, those weren't so good. And there have been others. But now in this new line of live action remakes, they're talking about doing it. Now, what we're hearing right now is that it wouldn't be the origin story of Snow White. What they're reporting right now is that such a Snow White live action movie, possibly being directed by Marc Webb, would be an expansion and a building upon and a continuation of the Snow White story. And here's a really interesting thing as well to go along with the Snow White story. Apparently, they have signed on the guys who did the music for Greatest Showman and La La Land to write new songs. Greatest Showman, the music in The Greatest Showman is awesome. The music in La La Land was awesome. So they've apparently already signed on those guys to write new music for a Snow White presentation and getting Marc Webb in. Now, I'll tell you what right now. I'm a Marc Webb fan. I like Marc Webb as a director quite a bit. Has everything he's ever made been great? No, we'll talk about that in a second. But he's made some really good stuff, and he's directed some terrific television. And let's put television aside for a second. If we just want to look at some of the notable stuff he's directed, he directed the first Amazing Spider-Man film, which I still don't understand why some people give that movie a hard time. That movie's wonderful. I think the first Amazing Spider-Man is wonderful. I can't say the same thing about The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I cannot say the same thing about The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Now, there was a lot of reports going around about that this thing was a mess behind the scenes between the studio and whatnot, and for whatever the reason is, but Marc Webb's name is on it. He directed it, so I'm putting it on this list. So, great Amazing Spider-Man. Not so great Amazing Spider-Man 2. But he did two other films that I just love. 500 Days of Summer with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That movie's wonderful, and it's a beautifully told story. It really showed off Marc Webb's chops for telling a story. And he did Chris Evans' Gifted, which I thought was really nice. I thought that was a really good little movie. And then, of course, he's done a lot of television as well. So Marc Webb is a guy with a pedigree. He's a guy with a resume. And when you look at his storytelling styles in like a Gifted or a 500 Days of Summer, this could be a really good fit with a Snow White. So from right now, what the reports are saying is that he's in now negotiations, which means they've picked him to be the director. Now they got to see if they can work out a deal. So I expect this thing to become official pretty soon. I'm good with it. I got to say, I think Disney's been on a pretty good roll with their live action stuff. I liked Aladdin very much. I thought Jungle Book was fantastic. I cannot wait to see Lion King. I thought their Cinderella film was magnificent. Not so big on Maleficent. I'm not so big on Maleficent. Let's see how the sequel turns out. But I like the idea of the movie. I like the filmmaker they're attaching, and they've got tremendous musical talent associated with it. Again, the guys who did The Greatest Showman and La La Land, writing new music for it. I don't know, call me crazy. It sounds like a good recipe. Again, nothing guarantees this is going to work. Nothing guarantees this is going to crank out or turn out to be a great movie or anything like that. Nothing guarantees that. But I think at least on its surface and on paper, this looks like a pretty good mixture. What do you guys think? Are you guys kind of thinking like, come on, Disney, another live action remake? I could understand that. Or are you thinking, do you agree with me that, yeah, this sounds on paper like it's a pretty good mixture? Give it a shot. Jump down in the comments section below and let me know what you think.